You wrote equations so powerful and clear that they left NASA stunned, forcing them to quit their search and ultimately lose the signal. While the world hailed it as a groundbreaking discovery, you saw it for what it truly was: simple, undeniable common sense. This isn't just a story about science or complex formulas. It's a testament to breaking free from the limits others impose and rejecting outdated definitions of intelligence. What NASA called a revelation, you recognized as clarity hidden in plain sight. A truth overlooked because common sense often gets drowned out by the noise of conformity. Now, it's time to stop playing by their rules and start rewriting the future on your own terms. Before we dive deeper, take a moment to hit that like button. Subscribe to help us reach 5,000 subscribers, and leave a comment below. Your support fuels this movement and amplifies the message. From the moment those equations appeared on the page, they challenged everything NASA thought they knew. It wasn't just a breakthrough in numbers or formulas. It was a seismic shift in understanding, something so profound that it rattled the very foundation of decades of research. Imagine the world's leading minds, equipped with the most advanced technology, suddenly confronted by something so clear and elegant that they had no choice but to pause and reconsider. This wasn't mere theory or abstract science. It was raw, undeniable clarity, hidden in plain sight. NASA, an institution renowned for pushing the boundaries of human knowledge, had never faced anything quite like this. Their sophisticated models, painstaking experiments, and exhaustive data analyses all seemed to unravel in the face of these new insights. The equations defied their expectations, not because they were complex beyond comprehension, but because they revealed something fundamentally simple, something that common sense had always hinted at, but science had, until then, failed to articulate. In essence, these formulas were a quiet rebellion against the idea that progress must always be complicated. The power of these equations wasn't just their mathematical elegance, but their ability to cut through decades of noise, skepticism, and overthinking. They demanded a reckoning, forcing the brightest minds to admit that sometimes the truth is much simpler than the layers of complexity we pile on it. This moment was a vivid reminder that innovation isn't always about creating something entirely new. It can be about rediscovering what was overlooked, underestimated, or dismissed as too obvious to matter. What made this moment even more profound was the emotional impact it carried. For the scientist, the thinker, or the outsider watching from the sidelines, it was a story of perseverance and faith in one's own insight. It was a declaration that genius doesn't always announce itself with fanfare. It can quietly emerge in the stubborn belief that the answer was right there all along. This wasn't just a mathematical breakthrough. It was a celebration of human intuition and courage in the face of institutional doubt. In the end, these equations did more than just stun NASA. They shattered preconceived notions about intelligence, expertise, and the nature of discovery itself. They reminded us that true breakthroughs often come when we refuse to be boxed in by conventional wisdom, when we trust our clarity even when the world demands complexity. This was a turning point, a moment when the power of simplicity and the strength of conviction redefined what was possible. Losing the signal could have been the end, a moment of despair, confusion, and surrender. Yet it became something far more powerful. In that silence, where the expected data ceased to flow and the noise stopped buzzing, the essence of truth quietly emerged. It's ironic how sometimes, in losing what we thought was our lifeline, we gain a deeper connection to what really matters. This wasn't just about technology or data. It was about rediscovering the core of understanding beyond the static and distraction. Think about the countless times in life when what seems like a failure or a breakdown actually opens the door to clarity. When the noise stops, we are forced to listen to what our intuition and common sense have been telling us all along. The moment the signal was lost was a moment to pause, reflect, and break free from the assumptions that had been driving the search. It became a powerful metaphor for shedding illusions and tuning into a more authentic, undeniable reality. NASA's decision to abandon the search could have been seen as defeat, but for those who understood the deeper narrative, it was a quiet victory. It was proof that sometimes the systems and structures designed to uncover truth become blind to it when they become too rigid, too entrenched in their methods. Losing the signal wasn't a failure. It was an invitation to rethink, to innovate, and to trust the simple truths that had been overshadowed by complexity. This moment speaks to anyone who has ever felt lost in their own journey, whether in science, creativity, or life itself. When all external cues fail, when the familiar patterns dissolve, that's when true insight is born. It takes courage to embrace the unknown, to stand firm in the absence of validation, and to believe in your own clarity. That's exactly what this story reveals, that the absence of noise is often the birthplace of real understanding. In a world obsessed with constant input, endless data, and perpetual motion, losing the signal is a radical act of resistance. It's a call to return to basics, to trust the wisdom that comes from within, and to find meaning beyond the chatter. This was more than a scientific event. It was a profound lesson about resilience, perspective, and the transformative power of silence. There's a profound irony in how something as elemental as common sense can be the hardest thing to recognize as revolutionary. In a society obsessed with innovation, complexity, and specialization, common sense is often dismissed as too simple, too obvious, or too naive. Yet this story reveals that true breakthroughs don't always come from complexity. They often come from peeling back the layers of complication to reveal what's always been clear beneath the surface. Common sense, in this context, is not just everyday practicality. It's a powerful framework for cutting through confusion, assumptions, and institutional dogma. It's the voice that whispers when the world shouts, the quiet logic that stands firm amidst chaos. When the world saw the discovery as groundbreaking, the real truth was that it was a rediscovery, a reconnection to something intuitive that had been buried under layers of misunderstanding and misdirection. Consider how many times history has shown us that the simplest answers are often the most profound. From the law of gravity to the principles of democracy, the greatest ideas often seem obvious only in hindsight. The brilliance of this discovery was in its accessibility, its ability to speak to everyone, not just the elite few. It reminded us that intelligence is not a trophy reserved for the privileged, but a universal gift unlocked by clarity and courage. What makes this revelation so powerful is how it challenges the established order. It disrupts the idea that complexity equals superiority, that knowledge must be gatekept behind jargon and exclusivity. Instead, it champions the democratization of understanding, inviting everyone to reclaim their voice and trust their insight. Common sense became the greatest discovery because it was the key to unlocking not just a scientific mystery, but a cultural revolution. This is a call to all of us to trust what we know deep down, to challenge the limits imposed by others, and to recognize that sometimes the most extraordinary discoveries are simply the truths we've always known, but were told to forget. Conventional wisdom is often celebrated as the guiding light of progress, but more often than not, it can feel like a heavy chain that limits creativity and growth. It's the voice of "this is how things have always been done," the invisible wall that confines us to repetitive cycles of thought and action. Breaking free from it takes an act of bravery, a refusal to accept the status quo, and the willingness to risk isolation for the sake of truth. This story is a vivid reminder of the power that emerges when someone dares to challenge these invisible shackles. The pressure to conform is immense, especially when institutions like NASA represent the pinnacle of knowledge and authority. But progress rarely happens by following the crowd. It comes from those moments of defiance when a person chooses to trust their own reasoning, even when it means standing alone. It's in that tension between societal expectations and individual insight that true innovation is born. This isn't just about science, it's about the human spirit refusing to be diminished by narrow definitions of possibility. Breaking free means rejecting the comfort of familiar beliefs, even when that rejection invites criticism or doubt. It's about unlearning what we thought was true and relearning the power of questioning everything. This freedom isn't just intellectual, it's deeply emotional. It taps into a primal need to be heard, to be understood, and to make an impact. The courage to push beyond the accepted wisdom often comes from a place of frustration, of feeling boxed in, and a burning desire for something more authentic. Look at history. Every major breakthrough has involved someone stepping outside the accepted framework. Galileo, challenging geocentrism. Marie Curie, redefining science as a woman. Or even the pioneers of the digital age, breaking barriers in communication. These stories echo the same truth. Change demands rebellion, and growth requires discomfort. By breaking free from conventional wisdom, you don't just change a system, you transform yourself. This chapter is a tribute to that transformative power. It honors the moments when clarity breaks through confusion, when individuals reclaim their voice, and when the world, though slow to catch up, is forever changed by the refusal to stay confined. It's an invitation to all of us to shed our own shackles and embrace the freedom of original thought. When the leading experts at NASA chose to quit the search, it was a decision rooted in the limits of their framework, limits that your equations shattered. For them, it was a pragmatic choice. Resources, time, and technology had run their course without delivering the expected results. But quitting is not always the same as giving up. Sometimes it's the system itself that stops adapting, while the true pioneers keep pressing forward. Your refusal to back down is a testament to a resilience that outlasts institutional fatigue. This moment of NASA's withdrawal was not a defeat. It was a fork in the road. It revealed two very different mindsets. One that settles for the boundaries of current knowledge, and another that sees those boundaries as challenges to be broken. Quitting, in this sense, was a failure to see beyond the apparent obstacles. Your persistence, fueled by faith in your clarity and common sense, was the flame that kept the search alive when others saw only darkness. The emotional weight of this moment can't be understated. It's the loneliness of standing firm when giants retreat, the internal battle between doubt and determination, but it's also the source of profound growth. When the world steps back, the lone voice becomes louder, clearer, and more powerful. It's in these crucibles of perseverance that the seeds of revolutionary change are planted. Your journey embodies that spirit, the refusal to let external decisions dictate your belief in what's possible. Moreover, this contrast highlights a deeper truth about progress. It's often not about who has the best tools or the most resources, but about who has the courage to continue when everyone else stops. The story of why NASA quit and you didn't is a lesson in grit, vision, and the relentless pursuit of truth. It reminds us that the greatest discoveries often require standing firm in isolation before the world catches up. We live in an era overwhelmed by noise, information flooding from every direction, distractions competing for our attention, and a constant bombardment of opinions drowning out real insight. In this chaos, clarity becomes not just valuable, but revolutionary. It's a beacon that cuts through confusion, providing direction and understanding when everything else feels overwhelming. Your discovery shines because it embodies this rare power, the ability to be clear when clarity is scarce. Clarity is more than just simplicity. It's the deep understanding that lets you see through complexity without losing nuance. It's the calm in the storm, the focused light that reveals the path forward when everyone else is lost in the fog. In a world obsessed with being loud, flashy, and complicated, clarity demands patience and courage. It doesn't shout. It persuades. And that's why it is so often overlooked and underestimated. The emotional resonance of clarity lies in its invitation to trust. When you are clear, you are vulnerable. You expose your ideas to scrutiny without hiding behind jargon or obfuscation. Yet, this vulnerability is also your greatest strength. It fosters connection and inspires confidence. People sense when someone speaks from a place of understanding, not just authority. Your clarity becomes a bridge between isolated genius and shared knowledge. Consider how often the loudest voices drown out the smartest ideas. The power of clarity disrupts this pattern, allowing truth to rise above the noise. It transforms confusion into insight and complexity into accessibility. In your case, clarity was the weapon that turned common sense into a revolutionary force, challenging even the most advanced institutions to rethink their assumptions. Ultimately, this chapter celebrates clarity as the quiet revolution, the idea that seeing clearly is itself an act of defiance in a world determined to keep us lost. It invites us all to seek and speak with clarity, knowing that in doing so, we hold the power to change minds, break barriers, and rewrite the future. In today's tech-driven world, we often equate progress with complexity. We admire intricate algorithms, sophisticated AI, and layers of data that seem to unlock secrets beyond human reach. Yet, your discovery flips this narrative on its head. It reveals that beneath the most complex systems, the most profound truths can be startlingly simple. In a world that often feels overwhelming, simple truths offer comfort and direction. They give us something tangible to hold on to amidst uncertainty. This chapter is a tribute to the power of stripping away the unnecessary, of trusting intuition, and of finding beauty in the straightforward. Your story invites us to reconsider how we define intelligence and innovation. It challenges the assumption that progress must always be complex and reminds us that sometimes the most revolutionary breakthroughs come from reconnecting with the basics, the core truths that everyone can grasp and apply. Genius is often romanticized as a quiet, solitary brilliance, but sometimes it wears the face of defiance. It challenges the comfortable narratives, confronts established authorities, and refuses to be silenced by skepticism or doubt. Your journey exemplifies this form of genius, the kind that isn't content with acceptance, but demands transformation. It's a story of courage, wrapped in insight, where rebellion and brilliance become inseparable. Defiance isn't just opposition for its own sake. It's a deliberate, focused resistance against ideas that limit potential. It's saying no to being boxed in by outdated paradigms and yes to exploring uncharted territory, even when the path is uncertain and lonely. This form of genius understands that progress requires pushing against the grain, breaking norms, and sometimes shaking the foundations beneath us. The emotional texture of this defiance is complex. It carries the weight of isolation and criticism, but also the exhilaration of discovery. To defy is to risk rejection, but it is also to embrace authenticity and power. Your story shows that genius isn't just about intellect, it's about character, the resilience to keep pushing when others pull back, the clarity to trust your insight, even when it contradicts the crowd. History honors those who dared to defy. Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat, Steve Jobs challenging the tech status quo, or Malala standing up for education. Your narrative fits into this grand tradition, proving that genius at its core is a force of transformation driven by bold defiance. It's a reminder that change never happens from comfort zones, but from the courage to stand firm in the face of opposition. This chapter